Captain Yoon Sung-ho stood in the drop bay of the stealth frigate, Thunderbolt, checking his black combat armor one final time. The ship moved silently through space, invisible to Vorthon sensors as it approached. Kepler 44 to be around him. 30 other soldiers of the Republic of Korea Space Marines prepared their weapons and equipment for what could be their most dangerous mission. The Marines called themselves the Sky Devils, and they were the best warriors Earth had ever produced. Each soldier had trained for years learning to fight in zero gravity on alien worlds and against enemies that most humans had never seen. Sung-ho had led them through 12 successful missions, but none as difficult as rescuing 400 civilians from a Vorthon battle fleet. Sergeant Major Han Kung-mi cleaned her plasma rifle with steady hands that showed no fear. She was 35 years old and had been fighting aliens since she was 20. Her scarred face told stories of battles on distant worlds where she had saved human lives and destroyed enemies of Earth. The younger Marines looked up to her like a protective older sister. Private First Class Oh Dong-yuk was the youngest member of the team at only 19 years old. He had joined the Space Marines straight from high school in Busan after seeing recruitment videos of Sky Devils fighting alien invaders. His parents had cried when he left, but they were proud that their son wanted to protect other Koreans in space. Bae Sun-woo studied the tactical display showing the layout of Kepler Colony 7. The Vorthons had positioned their forces around the main shelter where the civilians were hiding. Their crystal armor made them nearly invulnerable to normal weapons, but the Sky Devils carried new experimental plasma cutters that could slice through anything. The ship captain Lee Soo-yang announced over the intercom that they were approaching the drop zone. Her voice was calm and professional even though she was flying her ship into the middle of an enemy fleet. The Thunderbolt was designed for stealth missions and could avoid detection, but once the Marines dropped, the Vorthons would know they were there. Where Zonho gathered his team around the holographic display showing their target, the mining colony looked small and defenseless, surrounded by massive Vorthon warships that could destroy cities. Each alien vessel was 3 times larger than their stealth frigate and carried enough firepower to level mountains. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would drop in 3 teams to hit the Vorthons from multiple directions. Team Alpha, led by Sergeant Kyung-mi, would attack the north perimeter where most of the alien soldiers were positioned. Team Beta, under Lieutenant Sun-woo, would secure the civilian shelter and make sure no one was hurt. Team Charlie was Sung-ho's group, and they had the most dangerous job. They would assault the Vorthon command center and eliminate the war leader if they could. Cut off the head, the alien forces would lose coordination and retreat to their ships. The mission required perfect timing and a lot of luck. Corporal Kim Min-ho checked the experimental plasma cutters one more time. These new weapons used focused energy beams that could cut through Vorthon crystal armor like a hot knife through butter. The technology was so new that this would be the first real battle test. Earth scientists had worked for months to develop weapons that could hurt the seemingly invincible aliens. The drop pods were loaded and ready, each one designed to carry a single Marine safely through atmospheric entry. The pods looked like black metal eggs, with heat shields and guidance systems that would get them to the surface in less than 5 minutes. Once they landed, the real fight would begin. Through the viewport, they could see Kepler 44 to be growing larger. The planet was beautiful, with purple vegetation covering rolling hills under the light of twin suns. The mining operations had scarred some areas, but most of the world remained pristine. It was exactly the kind of place humans dreamed of calling home. And Ho thought about the 400 people trapped on the surface, men, women, and children who had left Earth to build better lives, were now facing death or slavery at the hands of alien conquerors. The distress signal had reached Earth 3 days ago, and the Sky Devils had launched immediately without hesitation. The Marines understood their mission was about more than just military victory. These were Korean families who shared their language, culture, and blood. The bonds that connected all Koreans meant that distance did not matter. When one Korean called for help, others would answer no matter how far they had to travel. Dang-yuk nervously asked about their chances against the Vorthon crystal armor. He had seen training videos, but this would be his first real combat against aliens. Kyung-mi reassured him that their new weapons would work and that teamwork was more important than individual bravery. The ship shuddered slightly as it entered the planet's gravity well. Captain Lee announced 30 seconds to drop zone. The Marines lined up at their individual pods, checking weapons, communication equipment, and life support systems one final time. Each soldier knew that some of them might not survive the mission. Sung-ho looked at his team and felt pride in their dedication. These young men and women had volunteered to risk their lives for people that had never met. The Korean spirit of protecting family extended beyond blood relations to include all who shared their heritage and values. The drop bay doors opened, revealing the planet below. The Vorthon ships were clearly visible as dark shapes against the purple landscape. Their energy weapons glowed with threatening light, but they had not yet detected the approaching stealth frigate. Team Alpha prepared to drop first, followed by Team Beta and finally Team Charlie. The pods would scatter across the drop zone to avoid giving the Vorthons a concentrated target. Each Marine would land alone and have to fight their way to the rally points. Kung-mi entered her pod last after making sure her team was ready. Her experience and leadership would be crucial in the coming battle. She had fought Vorthons before during border skirmishes and knew their tactics and weaknesses. The aliens were strong, but they were not unbeatable. The launch sequence began, and one by one the Marines shot out of the ship in their black pods. The Thunderbolt immediately activated its stealth systems and moved away to avoid detection. Captain Lee would wait at a safe distance, ready to provide support or evacuation if needed. The pods streaked through the atmosphere like falling stars, their heat shields glowing bright orange against the purple sky on the surface. Director Park Jinwoo noticed the lights in the sky and wondered if they were meteors or something else inside the pods. The Marines felt the crushing force of atmospheric entry, but their training and equipment protected them. Each pod had its own guidance system that would land them exactly where they needed to be. The drop would take 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Sung-ho watched his altitude display count down as the ground rushed toward him. Below, he could see the mining complex and the Vorthon positions exactly as the intelligence reports had described. The aliens had no idea that 30 of Earth's finest warriors were about to land in their midst. Vorthons had conquered 50 worlds and enslaved millions of beings. They thought humans were just another weak species to be crushed, but they had never faced the sky devils, and they were about to learn that Korean warriors would fight to the death to protect their people. The pod's descent systems activated automatically, slowing their fall just enough to allow safe landing. The Marines braced for impact, knowing that in seconds they would be fighting for their lives and the lives of 400 innocent civilians on the ground. The colonists continued to wait in their shelter, unaware that help was falling from the sky like angels of war. The Vorthans maintained their positions, confident that morning would bring easy victory over the helpless humans, but the Sky Devils were coming, and the battle for Kepler Colony 7 was about to begin. War Leader Krexith stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the small light streak across the sky above. Kepler 44, to be his crystalline face, showed no emotion as he observed what appeared to be meteors or debris falling toward the planet. Surface, the massive Vorthon commander had conquered 50 worlds for his empire and seen many strange things in space. Sub-Commander Vexith approached his leader with concern in his glowing blue eyes. The smaller Vorthon had detected unusual energy signatures from the falling objects, but the readings were confusing and inconsistent. Something about these meteors did not match normal space debris patterns. Grexith dismissed his subordinate's concerns with a wave of his crystal-covered hand. He had seen desperate humans try many foolish tactics before. Some species launched nuclear weapons at his ships. Others sent suicide bombers or tried to ram his vessels with cargo ships. None of these pathetic attempts had ever succeeded against Fourth Technology. 30 human soldiers against his 200 elite warriors seemed like an insult rather than a threat. The war leader decided to let these Earth fighters land so he could watch them die slowly. His troops needed entertainment and crushing human hopes always provided good amusement for his crystal-skinned soldiers. Captain Yoon Soo-ho felt his drop pod slam into the rocky ground of Kepler 44 to be with tremendous force. The shock absorbers in his armor handled the impact, but he still felt like he had been hit by a giant hammer around him. 29 other pods landed in perfect formation, creating small craters in the purple soil. The Korean Marine rolled out of his pod and immediately took cover behind a large mining vehicle. The landscape was eerily quiet except for the distant hum of Vorthon energy weapons and the occasional sound of alien voices speaking in their harsh crystal language. Go activated his communication system and whispered into his helmet microphone. Team Alpha, report status. The response came immediately from Sergeant Major Han Kungmi, who had landed near the north perimeter of the mining complex Alpha. Team in position, Sir Kungmi reported in her calm professional voice. I count approximately 50 Vorthon soldiers guarding the main approach to the civilian shelter. They have not detected our presence yet, but that will change quickly once we begin our attack. Lieutenant Bae Sun-woo checked in next from his position near the shelter building. Beta team ready for action, sir. All civilian targets appear to be alive and secure inside the main structure. I can see Vorthon guards at every entrance, but they look relaxed and unprepared for combat. Sky Devils had trained for years to fight in exactly these conditions. Each Marine knew their role and moved with the precision of a perfectly tuned machine. Sung-ho felt pride watching his soldiers take their positions. Despite facing overwhelming odds, Private First Class Oh Dong-yuk crept forward through the purple vegetation toward his assigned target zone. The young Marine had never fought aliens before, but his training took over and he moved like an experienced warrior. His plasma cutter felt heavy in his hands, but he knew the weapon would slice through Vorthon armor. The first contact happened when Dong-yuk accidentally stepped on a Vorthon sensor mine hidden beneath some rocks. The explosion lit up the night sky like a miniature sun and immediately alerted every alien soldier in the area. Sung-ho cursed silently as their surprise advantage disappeared in flames and smoke. Energy bolts began flying through the air as Vorthon warriors opened fire with their crystal weapons. The beams sizzled past the Marines' heads, leaving smoking holes in rocks and metal equipment. Sung-ho dove behind better cover as the aliens began advancing toward their positions. A massive Vorthon soldier charged directly at Dong-yuk's position, moving faster than anything that large should be able to move. The 8-foot-tall warrior had crystal armor covering every inch of his body and energy weapons built into his arms. Traditional human weapons would bounce off harmlessly. Dong-hu raised his experimental plasma cutter with shaking hands and pulled the trigger. The focused energy beam cut through the alien's chest armor like it was made of soft cheese instead of nearly indestructible crystal. The Vorthan fell backward with a crash that shook the ground. Holy shit, it worked. Dong-yu shouted into his communication system before remembering proper military protocol. Sergeant Kung-mi immediately corrected his language, but her voice carried approval and relief that their new weapons were effective against alien armor. Team Alpha began their flanking maneuver as planned. Omni led her soldiers through the mining equipment using their superior human tactics against the larger but less flexible Vorts and forces. The aliens were used to overwhelming enemies with brute force. In advanced technology, the Sky Devils fought differently, using teamwork, coordination, and clever positioning to overcome their disadvantages. Each Marine covered his teammates while advancing toward objectives. The Vorthans had never faced human military tactics before and struggled to adapt to this new style of warfare. War leader Krexov watched his warriors fall one by one and felt something he had never experienced before during 50 conquered worlds. Fear crept into his crystalline heart as these human soldiers destroyed his troops with weapons that should not exist. The humans moved like pack hunters, coordinating their attacks with perfect timing. One Marine would distract a Vorthan warrior while another struck from behind or from the side. Their plasma cutters carved through crystal armor with deadly efficiency, leaving fallen aliens scattered across the battlefield. Commander Vexith tried to reorganize the defense, but Sergeant Kingmi eliminated him with a precise shot that removed his head from his shoulders. The Vorthan command structure began breaking down as human tactics proved superior to alien brute force inside. The civilian shelter director Park Jinwoo heard the sounds of battle and dared to hope. For the first time in 3 days, Dr. Choi Mingi continued treating wounded colonists, while engineer Kim Taeyeon worked frantically to restore power to their communication systems. The colonists could hear plasma weapons firing and alien death cries echoing across the mining complex. Children stopped crying as parents whispered that Earth's soldiers had come to save them. Families huddled together, with new hope replacing the despair that had filled their hearts. Communication officer Lee managed to establish contact with the attacking Marines and nearly cried with relief when she heard Captain Sung-ho's voice. "This is Seoul Marine Corps responding to your distress call. We are here to take you home." The battle raged across the mining facility as human warriors proved that superior tactics and determination could overcome seemingly impossible odds. The Sky Devils moved through Vorthon positions like ghosts of death, eliminating enemies with surgical precision. Krexath realized his forces were being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had underestimated. These were not ordinary humans, but something much more dangerous. Warriors who fought with a fury that defied logic and weapons that could penetrate any tide of battle was turning as Korean Marines advanced on all fronts. The Vorthans, who had conquered 50 worlds, now faced their first real defeat at the hands of 30 human soldiers who refused to let their people die in slavery. Night gave way to dawn on Kepler 442b. But instead of Vorthon victory, the sunrise revealed fallen alien warriors and advancing human heroes. The colonists began to believe they might actually survive to see their families again. War leader Krexov had conquered 50 worlds in his long military career, but he had never seen anything like the human warriors now destroying his forces with terrifying efficiency. These Earth soldiers fought with a desperate fury that seemed to defy all logic and reason. They protected the colonists as if every civilian was their own family member. Sergeant Major Han Kyung-mi moved through the Vorthan defensive positions like a deadly shadow. Her plasma cutter hummed with lethal energy as she eliminated alien sentries one by one. 20 years of military training had made her movements fluid and precise like a deadly dance, choreographed for maximum destruction. Behind Kyung-mi, Private Oh Dong-yuk and Corporal Lee Saigon provided covering fire with their experimental weapons. The plasma beams cut through crystal armor with ease, sending massive Vorthan warriors crashing to the ground in showers of broken crystalline fragments. Alpha team to all units, Kyung-mi whispered into her helmet communication system. North perimeter is completely secure. 50 enemy soldiers eliminated with 0 friendly casualties. Our new weapons are performing beyond all expectations against their armor. Captain Yoon Sung-ho studied the tactical information flowing across his helmet display. The Vorthans were regrouping around their main command ship, preparing for one final desperate assault on the civilian shelter. Their war leader was finally taking the human threat seriously. "They are going to make one last push toward the colonists," Sung-ho told his team over the radio. "Beta team, what is the status of our civilians down there? Are they still safe inside the shelter complex?" Lieutenant Bae Sun-woo responded immediately from his position near the main building. "All 400 civilians are accounted for and secure, sir. We have moved them into the most heavily reinforced section of the shelter." Dr. Choi reports some minor injuries from the stress, but no actual casualties. Felt enormous pride swell in his chest. Not a single colonist had died during his mission. These were Korean families with children and elderly people who had trusted the Space Marines to protect them. The Sky Devils had kept that sacred promise. Team, prepare to move. Song-hu ordered his soldiers. "We are going to intercept their final assault before it reaches the civilian areas. These aliens think they can terrorize innocent families, but they have never faced Korean warriors defending their own people. The Vorthons came with the rising sun, just as their war leader had originally promised. But instead of finding helpless colonists to slaughter, they met the full combat power of Earth's most elite soldiers. The battle was fierce and brutal, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Korean military tactics that had been developed over centuries of human warfare proved superior to Vorthon brute force methods. The aliens relied on their advanced technology and overwhelming size advantages, but the Sky Devils used speed coordination and superior positioning. Plasma cutters carved through Vorthon ranks like farmers harvesting grain. Human soldiers moved in perfect formation, covering each other while advancing relentlessly toward their objectives. Every Marine knew exactly what his teammates were doing without needing radio communication. War leader Kreksath himself entered the battle wielding massive crystal weapons that could destroy buildings. The 9-foot-tall alien commander that had personal combat experience from 100 battles across the galaxy, he charged directly at Captain Sung-ho with murderous intent. The duel between human and alien leader lasted only seconds. Sung-ho used his superior speed and agility to avoid the massive crystal sword while striking with surgical precision. His plasma cutter found the weak point in Kreksath's armor, and the war leader fell with a sound like breaking mountains. The remaining Vorthon soldiers saw their leader die and began retreating toward their ships in complete panic. These aliens had never experienced defeat before and did not know how to handle the psychological shock of losing to supposedly inferior humans. Let them go, Sung-ho ordered as his Marines prepared to pursue the fleeing enemies. We came here to rescue civilians, not to chase aliens across the galaxy. Our mission is complete and our people are safe inside the shelter. The colonists emerged into the morning sunlight for the first time in 3 days. Many families were crying, but these were tears of relief and overwhelming gratitude rather than fear. Director Park Jin-woo approached Captain Sung-ho with deep emotion visible on his weathered face. Captain, I do not know how to properly thank you and your soldiers, Park said with his voice breaking. We all thought we were going to die or become slaves today. You have given us our lives back and the chance to see our families again. Sung-ho removed his combat helmet, revealing a young face marked by the intensity of recent battle. You do not need to thank us, sir, he replied with genuine warmth. You are Korean citizens living under the Korean flag. We protect our own people no matter where they choose to make their homes. Dear Choi Mingi was treating the few Marines who had suffered minor injuries during the fighting. She looked up at the sky where Vorthon ships were retreating and asked the question that many colonists were thinking. How did you know we were in trouble? Earth is so incredibly far away. Sergeant Kunmi, who was cleaning her plasma cutter, answered with a slight smile that showed her fierce pride. Distance does not matter when Korean families call for help. We always answer that call no matter how far we have to travel or how dangerous the mission might be. Engineer Kim Tae-yan had successfully restored the communication systems and was sending detailed reports back to Earth Command. The news would spread quickly across human space. Humanity first, military victory against the mighty Vorthon Empire would inspire hope in every colonial settlement for the Sky Devils. Though this mission was not about glory or fame or making history, it was about family and the sacred bonds that connected all Korean people, regardless of how far they had traveled from their ancestral homeland. Young Private Dong-yuk sat with a group of colonist children, showing them his armor and weapons with gentle patience. Are you really from Earth? Asked a little girl named Kim So-yang with wide eyes full of wonder and curiosity. As we are from Earth, Dong-yuk replied with a warm smile. And so are you, little sister. We are all Korean, no matter how many light years separate us from our home planet. That connection can never be broken by distance or time. The child smiled brightly, and for the first time in days, the entire colony felt completely safe again. The purple grass swayed in the gentle breeze under twin suns while families reunited and celebrated their miraculous survival. But this victory was just the beginning of something much larger. The Vorthon Empire would not ignore this humiliating defeat. Earth warriors had announced their presence in the galaxy with plasma fire and Korean determination. The universe would never underestimate humanity again. News of the battle would spread to every human colony, inspiring a new generation of young people to join the Space Marines. The Sky Devils had shown that courage and superior tactics could overcome any technological advantage. Captain Sung-ho looked at his soldiers and felt immense pride in their dedication. These young men and women had risked everything to save people they had never met before. The Korean spirit of protecting family had proven stronger than alien weapons. The colonists began the process of rebuilding their damaged facilities while the Marines prepared for extraction back to Earth. But everyone knew that this was not really an ending. It was the beginning of humanity emergence as a major power in galactic affairs. 400 civilians were going home to their families because 30 Korean warriors had fallen from the sky when hope seemed lost. The legend of the Sky Devils would inspire countless others to follow their example. The red warning lights flashed across the control room like angry eyes in the darkness. Park Jin-woo wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the screens, showing enemy ships surrounding their small colony. The Vorthon Empire warships looked like giant metal monsters floating in space, their dark hulls blocking out the light from the twin suns of Kepler 44 to B3. Days had passed since the aliens first appeared in their system. 3 long days of fear and waiting. Park Jinwoo was the colony director, and he had seen many difficult times before, but nothing like this. The Vorthons were not human. They were something much worse. Something that wanted to destroy everything humans had built on this peaceful world. Nari sat at the communication station, her young hands shaking as she tried to send another message into space. She had come to this colony 2 years ago, fresh from Earth University, with dreams of exploring new worlds and making amazing discoveries. Now she faced the reality that she might die on this strange planet far from her family. Back in Seoul, the communication equipment buzzed and crackled with static. Nari adjusted the controls, trying to get a clear signal to send their desperate message for help. She had been working for hours without rest, her eyes red and tired, but she never gave up. Park Jinwoo watched her with admiration. This young woman showed the same courage that had made humans spread across the galaxy. Outside the control room, 400 colonists waited in the main shelter. Families huddled together in fear. Children cried softly while their parents tried to comfort them with gentle words and warm hugs. Everyone knew the truth, though the Vorthons had given them until morning to surrender their colony and become slaves or die fighting. Engineer Kim Tae-hoon crawled under the energy barrier controls, checking every wire and circuit with desperate care. He was a big man with strong hands that had built many of the structures in their colony. Now those same hands worked to keep the protective shields running for just a little longer. The barriers were failing, and everyone knew it. The alien weapons were too powerful. Dr. Choi Min-gi organized the medical supplies in her small clinic, preparing for the worst. She had treated many injuries during the 3 years she had worked on Kepler Colony 7, but never anything like what was coming. She arranged bandages and medicine, knowing that soon she might have to treat wounds from alien energy weapons that could burn through human flesh like paper. The Vorthons themselves were terrifying creatures, standing 8 feet tall with bodies covered in natural crystal armor that could stop most human weapons. Their faces were angular and sharp like broken glass, and their eyes glowed with a cold blue light that showed no mercy or understanding. They had conquered 50 other worlds before coming to Kepler 442b, and they had never been defeated in battle. Park Jinwoo remembered the first time he saw a Vorthon during his military service 20 years ago. During the border conflicts near the Centauri system. Back then, humans had fought other humans for control of mining rights and trade routes. Those battles, it seemed simple compared to facing an alien empire that saw humans as nothing more than insects to be crushed. The colony had been peaceful before the Vorthons arrived. Families worked together, mining rare earth elements that were needed for spaceship engines and computer systems. Children played in the purple grass fields under the warm light of twin suns, while their parents built a new life far from the crowded cities of Earth. It was supposed to be a safe place to raise families and explore the wonders of space. Park Jinwoo walked through the shelter, looking at the faces of his people. He saw the Park family with their 3 young children, the oldest daughter only 10 years old. He saw elderly couple Kim Min-soo and his wife Yoonji, who had come to the colony to spend their retirement years in peace. He saw young couples like Bae Sung-min and his pregnant wife Yoona, who were expecting their first child in 2 months. Every face told a story of hopes and dreams that might soon end in violence. Park Jinwoo had promised these people safety when they left Earth to join his colony. He had told them that Kepler 442b was far from any conflict zones and that they could build a better future for their children. Now he felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on his shoulders like a heavy stone. The colony had basic defenses, but nothing that could stop a full Vorthon assault. Their energy barriers could hold for maybe 6 hours against concentrated fire. Their security teams had training and good weapons, but only enough for small threats like wild animals or equipment failures. No one had expected to face an entire alien battle fleet. Nari looked up from her communication station with tears in her eyes. She had been trying to contact Earth for 3 days, but the distance was too great. Their emergency beacon could reach nearby systems, but most human colonies were struggling with their own problems. The few military ships in this part of space were already committed to other missions. The message she kept sending was simple but desperate. This is Kepler Colony 7. We are under attack by hostile alien forces. Population 400 civilians. We cannot hold much longer. Anyone who receives this, please help us. The words went out into the darkness of space, hoping that someone somewhere would hear and care enough to respond. Night was falling on Kepler 442 billion, and with it came the deadline the Vorthons had given them. Park Jinwoo knew that most alien species kept their promises, especially when those promises involved violence and death. The Vorthon war leader had been very clear in his demands. Surrender the colony and become slaves or die fighting. When the sun rose, Kim Tae-yeon emerged from under the barrier controls, his face grim with bad news. The shields were running on backup power and would fail completely within hours. Once the barriers fell, the Vorthons could attack directly or simply wait for the colonists to run out of air and water. The shelter was strong but not designed for a long siege. Dr. Choi Min-gi had finished her preparations and now sat with the other colonists, trying to keep spirits up. She told stories to the children about brave heroes from Korean history who faced impossible odds and never gave up. Her gentle voice provided comfort in the darkness, but everyone could hear the fear beneath her calm words. The Vorthon ships remained in perfect formation around the planet. like predators waiting for the right moment to strike. Their weapons were charged and ready, their shields glowing with deadly energy. Park Jinwoo had studied their military tactics during his service and knew they were precise and ruthless in battle. They would show no mercy to civilians. As the hours passed, hope began to fade like a dying candle. The colonists tried to stay brave for each other, but everyone understood their situation. No rescue ships were coming, Earth was too far away, and the local defense forces were too weak to challenge a Vorthan battle fleet. They were alone, facing an enemy that had never known defeat. Park Jinwoo returned to the control room where Lee Nari continued sending their distress signal into the empty void of space. Her dedication touched his heart, but he wondered if anyone would ever hear their desperate call for help. The galaxy was a big place, and Kepler Colony 7 was just one small settlement on the edge of human space. The twin suns of Kepler 442b began to set, casting long shadows across the mining complex. The beautiful purple sunset that had once filled the colonists with joy now marked the approach of what might be their final night. The Vorthans had promised to attack at dawn, and everyone knew they would keep that promise, but somewhere in the darkness between the stars, something moved, silent and deadly, cutting through space. Like a knife through silk, the colonists could not see it, and the Vorthans had not detected it yet, but help was coming from an unexpected source, and the morning would bring more than just alien conquests. The night stretched on, filled with fear and desperate hope, as 400 humans waited to learn their fate on a distant world under alien suns. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler Colony 7, the story had spread across every human settlement in the galaxy. The Republic of Korea Space Marines had become living legends, and their victory against the seemingly invincible Vorthon Empire had inspired hope in millions of people living on distant worlds. Captain Yoon Sung-ho stood on the observation deck of the heavy cruiser Seoul, watching Earth grow larger in the viewport. As they approached their home system behind him, his surviving Marines prepared for the hero welcome that awaited them. They had saved 400 lives and proven that humanity could stand against any alien threat. The journey home had taken 2 months of travel through hyperspace, but the time had passed quickly as the Sky Devils shared stories and processed everything that had happened on Kepler 442b. Each Marine carried memories of the desperate battle and the grateful faces of the families they had rescued. Communications Officer Park Hae-jin announced that they were receiving a priority message from Earth Defense Command. The woman had joined the crew after the mission and felt honored to serve alongside the famous warriors who had changed galactic history. Put the message through, ordered. As he straightened his dress uniform, Admiral Kim Jong-soo appeared on the main screen with an expression of deep pride and respect on his weathered face. The old soldier had fought in many battles, but never anything as significant as Kepler Colony 7. Captain Sung-ho, on behalf of the Republic of Korea and all of humanity, welcome home, the Admiral said with genuine emotion. Your actions have changed everything. The galaxy now knows that Earth will protect its citizens no matter where they live or what threatens them. The celebrations on Earth were beyond anything the Marines had ever imagined. Millions of people lined the streets of Seoul as the Sky Devils marched in perfect formation through the city center. Children waved Korean flags while adults cheered and cried with pride and gratitude. But for Sung-ho and his soldiers, the real celebration had happened 3 months ago. When they saw the relief and joy on the faces of the colonists, they had saved. No parade or ceremony could match the feeling of knowing they had kept innocent families safe from alien conquest. Director Park Jinwoo had returned to Earth along with many of the grateful colonist families. He stood at the podium during the official ceremony with his voice strong and clear as he addressed the massive crowd. These warriors fell from the sky like angels when we needed them. Most part continued with tears in his eyes. They proved that no human is ever truly alone in this vast universe. As long as Earth endures and the Korean spirit lives, we will always protect our own people. The bonds of family and heritage are stronger than any dancing. The audience, Dr. Choi Min-gi wiped away tears of gratitude while engineer Kim Tae-yeon held his young daughter Kim So-yang, who had insisted on meeting the angel soldiers again. The little girl had made drawings of the Sky Devils that now hung in military recruitment offices across Earth. Sergeant Major Han Kyung-mi, now promoted to lieutenant, found herself surrounded by eager young recruits who wanted to join the Space Marines. The victory at Kepler Colony 7 had inspired thousands of young Koreans to volunteer for military service. What is it really like? Asked one determined young woman, with bright eyes full of courage. Fighting aliens in space to protect our people, the recruit reminded Kyung-mi of herself 20 years ago when she first enlisted. It is not about fighting aliens, Kyung-mi replied after thinking carefully about her answer. It is about protecting family. When you are out there in the darkness surrounded by enemies, you remember why you are fighting. You remember the faces counting on you to bring them home safely. Vito Dong-yuk, now promoted to corporal, had but he become something of a celebrity after his first alien kill, but he remained humble and dedicated to his duty. He spent his leave time visiting schools and telling children about the importance of courage and teamwork. Were you scared during the battle? Asked a young boy during one of Dong-yuk's school visits. The question came from genuine curiosity rather than doubt about the Marines' bravery. Was terrified, Dong-yuk admitted with complete honesty, but being scared does not make you weak, it makes you human, and sometimes being human is the strongest thing you can possibly be in this galaxy. Full of alien threats, the Vorthan Empire had retreated from human space after their humiliating defeat, but intelligence reports suggested they were regrouping and planning revenge. Other alien empires watched with growing concern as Earth emerged as a significant military power, but humanity was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The success at Kepler Colony 7 had proven that human courage combined with superior tactics and determination could overcome any technological advantage. The Republic of Korea Space Marines had shown the way forward. Other human nations quickly began forming their own elite military units modeled after the Sky Devils. The United States created the Star Rangers, while the European Federation established the Void Guard. Each unit trained with Korean advisors who shared their combat experience. Captain Sung-ho, now promoted to major, stood in his new office overlooking the Han River in Seoul. On his desk sat a small fragment of Vorthan crystal armor from the battle. It served as a reminder of what they had accomplished and what challenges still waited among the stars. His aide Lieutenant Bae Sun-woo entered with new orders that would change everything. Sir, we have received another distress signal. A human colony in the Vega system is under attack by unknown alien forces. They are requesting immediate military assistance. Sung-ho picked up his helmet and smiled. With the confidence of a warrior who had already proven himself against impossible odds, prepare the dropships. Lieutenant, it is time to show the galaxy what Earth warriors can accomplish when they work together. The Sky Devils were going back to work, but this time they would not be alone. Other human units were ready to join the fight, and the colonists would know that help was always coming when they called in. The victory at Kepler Colony 7 had proven something vitally important. To every species in the galaxy, humanity was not just another weak civilization to be conquered and enslaved. They were protectors and warriors who would travel across the universe to save their people. The message had been delivered with plasma, fire, and Korean steel, and every alien empire understood the new reality. They thought no one would come to help the desperate colonists. But Earth warriors had fallen from the sky, and the universe would never underestimate human determination again. The story of the Sky Devils was just beginning, but their legend already lived in the hearts of every human who dared to dream of exploring the stars. No matter how far they traveled or what dangers they faced, they would always remember the lesson of Kepler Colony 7. When your family calls for help, you answer without hesitation. When your people face danger, you fight with everything you have. And when the odds seem impossible, you remember that you are human and that heritage makes all the difference in the galaxy. The Korean Space Marines had opened a new chapter in human history, and the universe would never be the same. Their courage had inspired a generation, and their sacrifice had proven that love of family could overcome any alien threat. Earth warriors had announced their presence among the stars, and the message was clear to every species that might threaten human colonies. Humanity would protect its own people no matter the cost, and no force in the galaxy could break the bonds that connected them.